Hi, and thank you for watching us here at Tax Talk UK, where we talk about all things tax and try to help you navigate the tax system as it applies to you and support you in your self-employment. So today I'm going to talk about when your first tax return will be due. Before I do, if I could please ask, if you're new here, please do take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you can easily refer back to that information if you need to, as well as being able to find other information that we have available on a whole host of different topics, all aimed at supporting you in your self-employment and to navigate the tax system as it applies to you. If you have questions on the things that we talk about or something's not quite clear, please do feel free to drop that question in the comments. And this again helps us to make sure that we can clarify the information and that we provide information on topics that is the most useful for our audience. So back then to when your first tax return will be due. So there's a whole host of different reasons as to why you may need to do a tax return, including if you have commenced self-employment and you're trading as a sole trader. So it doesn't really matter the reason that you need to do a tax return for the purpose of answering this question. So basically, you will need to, your first tax return will be for the tax year in which you started receiving the income that you need to report. So the tax year starts on the 6th of April and runs until the 5th of April in the following year. So, for example, the tax year that starts on the 6th of April 2024 and ends on the 5th of April 2025 is what is known as the 24-25 tax year. So if you start receiving the income that you need to report at any time during those dates, then this will be the first year that you need to submit the tax return. So the tax year ends on the 5th of April and the deadline for submitting the tax return is on the 31st of January the following year. So in the example that I just gave, the 24-25 tax year ends on the 5th of April 2025 and the deadline for submitting the tax return for that tax year will be the 31st of January 2026. You can actually physically submit that tax return anytime after the 6th of April. So as soon as the tax year has finished, and then you have until the 31st of January. Now, I shan't go into detail in this video because we cover this in this topic in other videos, but just because the 31st of January is the deadline, that is the absolute latest date that you should be submitting it. You also don't necessarily want to be submitting your tax return too early because you want to have the opportunity to make sure that you have all of the relevant information and nothing has been missed. Now, the time that you will need to do that will depend to some extent on the complexity of your situation. But generally speaking, if you aimed to do your tax return, have that submitted or at least fully prepared, ready to submit, say the middle of May to the middle of July, then that gives plenty of time to be able to get all the information together and have the information, have that at least prepared, if not submitted. And because the thing to remember that's really important is the tax return submission date is the 31st of January. This is also the date to pay any liability. So if you're not sure on your liability, or perhaps you've roughly estimated and then when you actually prepare your tax return, you realise that you had erroneously missed something and your estimate was wrong and you have to pay more than you was expecting, then of course you want the most amount of time to deal with that. So we always would suggest preparing your tax return at least in good time. But to go back to summarize, to answer the basic question, whichever tax year the income that you're reporting or the reason for having to submit a tax return arose, then that is the first year that you will need to submit a tax return. So if you're self-employed and you're trading as a sole trader, it doesn't matter when you started trading, the income for the tax year that you have incurred will be what you need to submit on that first tax return. So hopefully this is clear, and this helps you to understand when you'll need to submit your first tax return. As I mentioned, if you haven't already, please do take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.